With that, we're going to move to public hearing item number 9, which is to consider a change in zoning for property located at 6200 Blue Ridge Boulevard, 10,016 East 63rd Street, and 10,028 East 63rd Street. This is the second reading. I will reopen that public hearing. I will ask if anyone, actually I'm going to ask for the second reading beforehand to correct this.
Ordinance to change in zoning from neighborhood commercial and town square overlay district to neighborhood commercial and planned zoning overlay district on land located at 200 Blue Ridge Boulevard, 2016 East 63rd Street, and 10,028 East 63rd Street in accordance with the revisions of the comprehensive zoning regulations for the city of Brightown, Missouri.
Let's start the ex parte communication at this time. Mr. Leifson?
I have had ex parte communication on this matter in all forms, in public, speaking to people, phone calls, emails, letters, every way you could imagine, and it's been both in favor and against. I will hear all the facts before I make my decision. Thank you.
Mr. Van Busker?
I as well have received communication from a lot of people in our city, some out of our city, relative to this matter, phone calls, emails, and letters. As Mr. Lightfoot stated, I have received communications from people favoring this, communication from people not favoring it. I will weigh all the information and evidence before us and weigh all of those comments from people before I make a decision relative to this matter.
Mr. Ertz?
I'd like to just say the same thing. Very many phone calls, very much passion on this issue. Both sides report hearing the whole thing.
Ms. Emerson?
I've received much communication, both emails, phone calls, in person, and I will make my decision based on all the facts.
Ms. Nelson?
I've received many emails, letters, phone calls, and talked to many residents in person who have expressed their views that I will take into consideration, but will reserve my final judgment until all the evidence has been presented.
Mr. Frazier?
I do appreciate the respect that I've received from the many phone calls and letters. Likewise, I'm going to keep an open mind, weigh all the facts, do what I think is best for the people of Brightown. Thank you.
I've received communication from all perspectives, and I will treat all of them with fair consideration.
Kramer?
Yeah, I've had a bunch of contact with a lot of people, email, phone, different places, different times, but it will not affect my decision.
Mr. Graves?
I have talked with plenty of people. There are plenty of different methods of communication. I will have fair consider. I will look at all facts before I make a decision.
Mr. Vaughn?
Hello.
It's quite a bit of communication.
And joining in with that, I've had a considerable amount of communication as well, for and against. My job as facilitator of this meeting is to make sure that quorum is kept and facilitate a meeting that is respectful to all parties. I too have reserved judgment until I heard all the facts as well. So in the event I get to vote, which will be that at a time, I will vote based on my conscience and based on what is good for the city as a whole. Thank you. With that, Mr. Benson, introduction of the application.
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet for this meeting, you received a memo from myself that addressed a number of issues. I'd like to kind of walk through that. The issues addressed in that memo are based on requests or discussion at your May 7th meeting, some of which you asked staff to provide some additional information for this meeting. Before I go through that, one thing to take you back, and I think this addresses maybe not a question that was raised at that meeting, but I think comments that you've heard. This is a step in the process for development of this property. That process started back on September 4th, 2012, and then you, or the board of aldermen at that time, opted to enter into a purchase agreement with James D. Realty for the sale of this property. This is just a step that we anticipated going through at that time, which requires development, review and approval of the development plans for that property. Having said that, in the planning, in your packet for your previous meeting as well as tonight, you received, as you do on all rezoning applications, you received a copy of the staff report that was provided to the planning commission. In that staff report, there's a summary of various factors that the zoning ordinance sets out for consideration of, in this case, a rezoning application. Those, I'm not going to read you that staff report, but I'd like to walk through those factors just because, as I said, you received a lot of information. You're going to receive more information tonight, obviously. And the decision the zoning ordinance sets forth these factors as the basis for you to make that decision on this application. Those factors include the character of the neighborhood, how this rezoning application relates to the character of the neighborhood. Second is zoning, current uses of nearby property, how those uses and that zoning relates to this application. Third, the suitability of the zoning for the current use that is proposed or the current use of the property as it is today as well. Fourth, detrimental effects to nearby properties if rezoning is improved. Five, the length of the time the property has been vacant. Six, consideration of public interest. Seven, impacts of public services and utilities in that regard as far as what the development is proposed and how it would impact public services and utilities. 8, conformance with the comprehensive plan. That would include the CBD plan, which is a part of the city's comprehensive plan. And that is it. Those are the factors for any rezoning application, and so including this application tonight. Overall, that you've received, there's been discussion, you received information on regarding design standards for this property. The existing zoning, I'd like to talk about the existing zoning and come into the design standards from that. The existing zoning of the property as well as the proposed zoning application before you tonight allow grocery stores as a permitted use. Therefore, a grocery store can be located on the property, but whether the grocery store can be, is allowed on the property is really a moot point. The grocery store can be located on that property whether the zoning application is approved or if the zoning application is denied, because the grocery stores are permitted to use it either way. The most important issue to be considered as part of this application is the design standards that are to apply to the development of the property to which the application applies. The CBD design standards were developed as a means to implement the vision created in the CBD plan which was adopted by the city in 2002. The applicant has stated that due to the topography of the property, the size of the building, the location of the service and delivery area in relation to the internal layout of the store itself, and the city's desire to keep the existing tree located on the northwest corner of the property, that they are not able to comply with some of the CBD design standards. Following the May 7th Board of Aldermen meeting, staff has met with the applicant's architect, engineer, attorney, and real estate representative to review and discuss their proposed design standards that you previously received, as well as those standards, additional standards that have been recommended by staff. As a result of the Walmart neighborhood market, the neighborhood market will comply with, we found that the neighborhood market will comply with the majority of the CBD design standards. In that regard, there are 32 design elements in the CBD design standards. 9 of those elements do not apply to this development. They're just not applicable for various reasons, and I'll touch on that. Of the remaining 23 standards, the design that they've proposed their concept plan, as well as the design standards that they've proposed, as well as the design standards that staff is recommending, after we met, they meet 17 to, I would determine 17 and a half, and I'll explain that half here in a moment, leaving 5 and a half that they do not meet at the CBD design standards. At this point, I'd like to just, I'm not going to go through verbatim all the design standards because we'd be here really later than we're already probably in. But I would like to touch on what those design standards are and are not, that they will and will not be able to comply with, as well as those that are not applicable. The first is the location of parking facilities. The intent of that regulation is to maintain a contiguous, active pedestrian street front by locating parking facilities behind the buildings. New development, the design standards state, should be located behind the buildings. However, the CDD design standards also state that the Board of Aldermen, as part of the code, may approve an alternative to this design standard. They are proposing an alternative to that design standard in this respect. Next one is consolidated parking facilities. That is not applicable, as that is an optional. It's not required that they do that. That design standard says that they do. It allows some variations in other design aspects, but they're choosing not to comply, and that's their option. It's not a mandatory requirement. The next standard is location of driveways. They do not comply with that, as there will be, or are proposed to be, driveway entrances onto Blue Ridge Boulevard, which the design standards state should not occur. Parking lot landscaping, I have it identified as they do not meet it because the standards themselves are not contained in the design standards that they are proposed for this development. There will, however, be parking lot landscaping, as you can see on the conceptual site plan. Pedestrian connections is another standard. They do comply with that. The design standards proposed will comply with those, with the pedestrian connection design standards. Blocks, crosswalks, and intersections is the next standard. They do comply with that. There are certain parts of that one that are not applicable, and another part that is governed by the streetscape standards, which they've agreed to comply with. So in effect, through that means they are in compliance with that standard. Through block passages is the next standard, which is not applicable because it doesn't meet the requirement for a through block passageway because of the size of the block, plus it's an existing condition. They're not creating a new city block downtown. The next standard is site landscape areas. I have this marked as they do not comply. However, again, looking at the conceptual site plan, obviously there will be site landscaping throughout the property. This is, again, the standards that are specified in the CDE design standards are not carried through on the specifically in the proposed design standards. Street trees is the next standard. They will be able to comply with that. Site lighting is the next standard. They are able to comply with that. Sidewalk paving is the next standard. They are able to comply with that, and they agree that standard actually ties into the streetscape design master plan, which they've agreed to comply with as well.
Mr. Benson, let me ask you a question on that. So I heard you say they comply with that, and I heard you say that they would be installing the streetscape, the proposed streetscape project that has been under design. To what extent would that apply? In the letter from Mr. Bryant, their attorney, dated February 7th, it states that they agree to, on the frontage that their property has on any street that the streetscape master plan applies to, they will construct those streetscape improvements. So in that regard, those streetscape improvements cover sidewalk design and sidewalk paving, which would tie into this standard. That's what we've been talking about along 63rd Street, that same design, which can carry over Blue Ridge, Braytown Road.
And Braytown Road for the portion they abut, and Blue Ridge for the portion they abut, and then 62nd Street between Braytown on their side, and 62nd between Braytown Road and Blue Ridge Boulevard.
Thanks, sir.
Bicycle lanes is not applicable. In the previous staff report, staff was recommending, however, the reality of that is for their frontage, bicycle lanes are identified in the streetscape master plan for Blue Ridge Boulevard. Functionally, it does not work for them to install bike lanes when you have 3 lanes that will go down to, or 4 lanes rather, that will go down to 3 lanes with a bike lane for a portion of one block. It cannot work. It becomes unsafe. So the bicycle lanes are something the city will install at a later point when the further streetscape improvements are done beyond this property alone. Site furnishings, the design standards proposed shows that they comply with that standard. Courtyards, plazas, and open space is the next standard, which is not applicable, it's an optional. That standard applies to when courtyards, plaza, or open spaces provided, the standards that would apply for construction of those areas. There are no courtyards or plazas proposed as part of this project, therefore it's not applicable. Town square gateways also is the next standard, also is not applicable. That standard only applies to certain street intersections, none of which they abut. The next set of standards apply or fall under the commercial building design standards. The first of which is prominent entrance. The design standards that are proposed comply with that standard. The next standard is set 2 lines or maximum setbacks. When I said earlier they get half of one, this is a change. The building itself, the grocery store, will not comply with the standard for the reasons I spoke about earlier. Since the May 7th meeting, they have agreed to any future construction on 63rd Street will be built up. Any buildings would be constructed and placed adjacent to the sidewalk along 62nd Street. To clarify that or take that a step further, that standard does not currently apply to any building or property along 63rd Street. If a building was torn down today without this zoning, there's no town square overlay district that applies to any property abutting 63rd Street. There's no planning district. So the neighborhood commercial front yard setback would apply to just a 30-foot setback. So in this regard, they're agreeing to establish that setback, a 0 setback, if you will, subject to the standards within this, which allow for if an outdoor seating area or something along the front of the building could be put in, the building could be set back slightly with the courtyard plaza. But, so they would comply with the standards along 63rd Street, which is identified as the southeast slide. But the main lot or the grocery store itself would not comply with this standard. Ground floor transparency is the next standard. They have provided standards addressing this. They do not comply with the standards specified in the CBD design standard. Instead, they have proposed alternative ground floor transparency for the front facade, which would be the south side of the building facing, where the front entrance would be facing south onto their main parking lot. The left facade, which would be Greytown Road. The right facade, which would be along Blue Ridge Boulevard, and then the rear facade, which would face towards 62nd Street. The current CBD design standards specify a minimum of 45% of the lowest 12 feet of the building facade facing the street be comprised of windows with clear vision glass. The front facade, which would not technically fall under the standard, which faces the parking lot, they show would have a 7.6% of glass. The left facade facing Greytown Road would have 3.3%. The right facade facing Blue Ridge Boulevard would have 0.04%. And the rear facade would have no glass because that's the services they have for this. Weather protection is the next standard, and the proposed design standards would comply with the standards in CBD design regulations. Storefront and building facade composition, they comply with the standards that are proposed to comply with the CBD design regulations. Ground floor details are also contained in the proposed design standards and comply with the CBD regulations. Upper level step backs is not applicable because it's a one-story building. The upper level step backs apply to buildings of 3 stories or more. The next standard is roof expression, and they comply with those standards. Or I should say the design standards that are proposed are the same or comply with those. Marking gateways into town squares is not applicable, again, because the property itself is not divided into intersections that regulation applies to. Backside of buildings, that standard is proposed in the CBDs or in their proposed design standards. Concealing structured parking is not applicable because there is no structured parking proposed. Screening blank walls, they comply with those standards, or they're contained or addressed in their proposed design standards. Exterior building materials, they comply with those. They are proposing a modification to that to add, or actually 2 modifications to add split face CMU block, which is a split face. It would be the same material that on the Walmart Supercenter out on Highway 350. You see it on other commercial buildings. It's just not because of the size of the CMU. It was not stipulated as approved material. or exterior material. Also, brick is a permitted exterior material within CDD design standards. It states no larger than 4 inch by 4 inch by 8 inch in size. When we met with them after the May 7th meeting and talked about the brick as an alternative to split face CMU, or at least a portion of the exterior building having split face CMU, we talked about brick, but it would be larger than 4 by 4 by 8. It would be very similar to the brick that's on the building adjacent to City Hall here to the west. If you're familiar with that, and when you go outside, take a look at that. I don't know the exact dimensions on that, but I'm guessing it's roughly probably 16 inches long by 4 inches forward and then 6 inches high. So as an alternative. The next standard relates to the color, exterior colors of the building. Their standards address the exterior colors, largely are in compliance, with the exception of the CDD standards state that no more than one hue may be applied to the exterior of the building. They're proposing two. Their design standards propose two colors, if you will, or hues of colors to be on the exterior of the building. Commercial sign design standards are the next section. The first one being integration with architecture, and they comply with that standard. Sign design is the next section. They do not comply with that standard, as they do not, as the size of the monument sign proposed would be larger than what the CBD design standards would otherwise allow, which is CBD design standards allow a maximum of 25 square feet of sign face on each side. They're proposing a larger sign face than that. And then lastly, artistic elements is not applicable. That's, again, it's an optional, it's not a mandatory requirement, but an option to that.
Mr. President, before you continue, would you then go back, you summarized early on about the number of instances where the design guidelines are being met and those that are not necessarily applicable.
So there are 32 design elements that I just walked through. Of those 32, 9 are not applicable. 17 and a half being they are found to comply with the intent of those 17 and a half of those elements, and 5 and a half they're not compliant with of the 23 that would apply to the property. You at the May 7th meeting, staff was asked to provide information on the distance of service delivery area of other grocery stores in Raytown or the Raytown area to adjacent residential areas. Staff did research and looked at Hy-Vee, the Apple Market at 75th Street and Raytown Road, the Apple Market at 63rd Street and Woodson Road, the store at 6624 Raytown Road, and Price Chopper, even though it's not in Raytown or just outside of Raytown, Price Chopper near 63rd Street and Blue Ridge Cutoff. The service delivery area for Hy-Vee is located near the southeast corner of the building, with the service delivery drive extending along the east side of the property. Single-family residential homes are located approximately 45 feet from the location where delivery trucks park, and those homes or properties, residential properties, are located approximately 10 feet from the service delivery drive that extends along the east side of the Hy-Vee property. A 6-foot-high wood privacy fence is generally located along the east property line, separating the residential homes and the service delivery drive. There are also trees planted between that, along that stretch as well, between the fence and the driveway. The Apple Market at 75th Street and Raytown Road, the service delivery area is located on the west side of the building. Residential homes are located approximately 10 feet to the west of the service and delivery area and are separated by a fence. The Apple Market at 63rd Street and Woodson Road, the service and delivery area for that store is located on the west side of the building. Single-family homes located approximately 35 to 45 feet to the west. A portion of the service delivery area is screened from some of the homes by trees that help screen the service delivery area. There's also the service delivery drive for that property extends out to 63rd Street and actually comes closer to one of the residential properties in that 35 to 45 foot area. It's just the drive itself. The store, their service delivery area is located on the west side of the building. The office and call center for USA 800 is located on the property immediately to the west. There's approximately 10 feet from the edge of the service delivery drive to the USA 800 property with no screening provided between the two. Price Chopper, their service delivery area is located on the north side of the building and is located less than 10 feet from the adjoining property, which contains the multifamily apartment complex. There is, however, an existing tree line that provides some screening of the service and delivery area from the apartment complex. As has been shown on conceptual site plans 1H and 1G, which have been previously presented to you, for the proposed Walmart neighborhood market, the service and delivery area is to be located on the north side of the building. There's approximately 20 feet from the top of the retaining wall, which would be along the rear of the service and delivery area, between that top of the wall to 62nd Street is approximately 20 feet. The library, the auto, and an auto repair business are located on the opposite side of 62nd Street, both of which are an additional 50 feet to the north of their property line. As has been described at the previous meeting, a 4 to 5 foot, or actually 6 foot high fence will be located on top of the retaining wall, and the city's landscape regulations will require installation of landscaping between the fence and the 62nd Street right-of-way line. Collectively, those two items will provide further screening of their service delivery area. The nearest residential use to the proposed Walmart neighborhood market service area is BOA Apartments, which is located on property approximately 165 feet from the proposed service delivery area to the property line of both apartments. Another question you asked for information to be provided on was the hours of operation of grocery stores in Greytown. Staff looked at, again, the same stores that I just described. ID is open 24 hours per day, Monday through Sunday. Apple Market at 75th Street and Greytown Road is open from 6 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Sunday. Apple Market at 63rd and Woodson Road is open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and on Sunday from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. The store is open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and Price Chopper is open from 6 a.m. to midnight. One interesting note that we found when comparing the distance of residential homes to service delivery areas of those grocery stores and the hours of operation is that the stores with the longest hours of operation for Hy-Vee and the Apple Market, 7th Street and Greytown Road, are also the grocery stores that have service and delivery areas within the closest proximity to neighboring residential properties.
Could you repeat that, please?
Hy-Vee and the Apple Market store at 75th Street and Greytown Road are the grocery stores that have service delivery areas within closest proximity to adjoining residential neighborhoods or properties. Those two stores are also the stores that have the longest hours of operation each day. Based on that, staff, if the store hours of operation are limited, staff recommends that the hours of operation for the neighborhood market be limited to not less than 6 a.m. to midnight, which would be consistent with other stores. And given the distance, again, the neighborhood market is further away, the service delivery area is further away than any other grocery store or residential neighborhoods. There's been a lot of comments also you have received related to the market of downtown Greytown. One of the components of the CBD plan when it was developed was an analysis of the CBD's market or economic conditions. Over 11 years have passed since that original market or economic conditions study was developed as part of the CBD plan. Over that span, the economy has changed, and as a result, the market affecting downtown has changed. Bringing back to mind the Dial Realty and Red Brokerage, which the city has hired in previous years as master developers for the green space. Each of those master developers undertook their own market study to determine what the best use was for the property at that time. Each of those market studies identified a grocery store as a desirable business in the CBD. Most recently, the economic analysis of the Greytown CBD was performed by EPS, a consulting firm hired as part of the Mid-America Regional Council of MARCS, Creating Sustainable Places study of the Rock Island Corridor. Their study stated that the proposed grocery store, the Walmart neighborhood market, would be a strong anchor for downtown area that will help strengthen the commercial market in the CBD by drawing new shoppers and traffic to the area, which could stimulate reinvestment and redevelopment of surrounding properties. Lastly, as I previously stated, grocery stores are permitted use on the property whether this rezoning application is approved or not approved. Therefore, the proposed use of the property is not an issue related to the zoning application. Rather, again, the primary issue associated with this application relates to the design standards by which the development of the property should abide by. With that, I'll stop. If you have any questions for me.
Questions, staff? Mr. Gray?
Yeah, and thank you for pointing out what did comply with and what they don't comply with. I pulled a couple ordinances, and I'll try to make it as brief as possible. This one was...
Cannot hear you. Please speak up, please.
Sure, be happy to. I pulled a couple ordinances in relation to waivers that were given. One was our ID gas station. And I'll read a couple things. Granting a waiver to the standard specifying the driveway locations on Highway 350 have a minimum spacing of at least 440 feet for roadway intersections measured from center line of the roadway intersection to center line of the roadway specified in section 29-5. 01.2 of the Raytown zoning ordinance and approval of the driveway location indicated submitted site plan drawings. So we're getting a waiver. Granting of a waiver of the requirement specifying that parking facilities be located on the side of buildings away from street frontages as specified in section 29-05 or -5.01.1 of the Raytown zoning ordinance. And then I'll go down, granting of a waiver to the requirement specifying that brick, one of the exterior of the building enclosing canopy supports be no larger than 4" by 4" by 8" as specified in section 29-5.08 of the Raytown zoning ordinance. And it goes on. And another example, which everybody seems to like, was Gregory Square in regards to Aldi's. And that's the waiver of requirement of section 29-5.06 parking facilities and Highway 350 corridor design standards specifying that parking be located to the side of buildings away from street frontages. Waiver of requirement of section 29-9.01 commercial building appearance guidelines of the 350 corridor design standards specifying the compatible architectural design, including building materials and colors, be carried throughout the development area. The designs provide visual interest and variety, yet be consistent with architectural character of the area and development, and I could go on. So I just wanted to point that out.
I just wanted to clarify this for myself. The stores that you mentioned, and we did comparisons as hours and delivery spots, things like that. Are you saying that Ivy and the aftermarket on Greattown Road, both of those delivery areas would be closer to residential than the proposed grocery store?
That's correct. Actually, all the existing grocery stores in Raytown, as well as the five properties outside of Raytown, all have exclusive delivery areas closer to the residential than what's proposed.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And I don't know if you know this or not, that was a store you just mentioned, because I know a lot of people talk about we need one kind of store owning properties all over town. Isn't three of those grocery stores you just mentioned all the same owner? I'd say Applemart, Price Chopper.
I don't know the answer to that. Applemart is 60-30%. My understanding is it's come by the same as just the Price Chopper. I'm not sure about the Applemart.
I thought they were all possible.
Yeah, I can answer any question, no, here or not.
Mr. Walker, I know you're on one.
You're different right now.
there are different brothers that own each one of the stores. Like you're on Broward is one of the owners that you know. Woods Village is Jimmy and his brother. They're different.
Almost the same last name. Well, I wasn't engaging the audience, but for my own reference point, I didn't know if that was true or not. I just heard that.
Mr. Gray?
Just depends on the questions. We may not know the answer, because many people will research. But I believe the closest existing grocery store to where the proposed Walmart neighborhood market would be the Apple Market on 61st Street. Okay. Now, their hours are set from 6 to 10, you said 6 to 10 Monday through Friday, and 7 to 10, I guess, on Saturday?
Yeah, Monday through Saturday, 6 to 10 a.m., or 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and Sunday from 7 a.m.
Okay. Well, I'm curious, is it a previous Board of Aldermen, when that was being zoned, set those hours or not? I'm curious, I guess, is what the original language is for that particular Apple Market. They set the hours of operation.
I'm not aware that the city ever established their hours for it.
That's the concern I have, considering the proposal. One concern I have, considering the proposal for the current Walmart neighborhood market, the hours was set from 6 a.m. to 12 midnight, I guess. And I noticed that we sent a close competitor, a potential competitor, if you will, or hours that would be diminished. And I was just curious if that was a regulation or if that was something that they chose.
My understanding that that's something that they chose.
You know that?
I don't know that. I wasn't here when I wrote it.
That's the question I asked, so we don't know.
But I haven't seen any ordinance or any regulations that you have to govern the hours of operation of any grocery store right now.
Any grocery store? Okay, thank you.
Other questions, sir?
In an effort to kind of zero in on the real question here, maybe connect it up. The proposed change in the zoning ordinance is an effort to allow the changes, the 5.5 changes in design standards. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Other questions this time? Anything else to add?
I had nothing further at this time.
All right, there's been a request made that we take a brief recess.
I have a question because last time we sat here for 6 hours at a bathroom break, when other people could speak and leave, I just had a chance to go to the bathroom. I guess that's too much bathroom.
We will, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. I would urge the board members to be sure they're not discussing this matter while they're on break. We will reconvene in 10 minutes.
I think that's one of those got a question.
Okay, does the board have any questions of staff when we go to the applicant presentation? Okay. Mr. Bryant, would you like to present on behalf of the applicant?
Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Aldermen, my name is Mark Bryant.
Hold on, please. Thank you.
My name is Mark Bryant. I am an attorney with the law firm of White, Goss, Bowers, March, Schulte, and Weisenfels. We have the privilege of representing Walmart with respect to certain land use matters. At the outset, we'd like to say thank you. We too have participated in now this fourth public hearing. We know some of you have too. We appreciate your patience and your willingness to listen to not only our perspective, but the perspective of all the people who have come here to testify with respect to this matter. We also thank all the members of the public and the residents of Raytown who have come repeatedly to express their opinion. This is a great country. This is a part of the democratic process, and we consider ourselves privileged to participate in it with you. I'm joined again tonight with the people who are on the Walmart development team, including Bill Boyden with BRR Architecture, Rick Rolfing with BFA Engineering, Jeff Clancy with JMC Realty. But in addition, in response to some of the complaints that we'd heard here before, I'm also joined by a number of people who are with Walmart. In fact, John Bizio, who is Director of Public Affairs for Walmart, is here with me tonight. I'm also joined by Carrie Crispin, who is Walmart's Marketing Manager for the Southwest Metropolitan Market. Heather Carter, who is the Raytown Walmart Supercenter Store Manager. Brian Harrelson, who is the Raytown Walmart Supercenter Asset Protection Manager. And Nico Vassell, the Raytown Walmart Supercenter Co-Manager. All of them are here to answer any technical questions you may have with respect to the operation of Walmart. We're also pleased to tell you that we're joined by some associates who work at Walmart and are also citizens of the city of Raytown. And if you would, I'd ask they to raise their hands and indicate their presence here tonight as well. Since the May 7th public hearing, Walmart and your city staff have been busy meeting to make an effort to conform our plans as closely as possible to your central business district design guidelines. We're pleased with the results that have been obtained. As Mr. Benson indicates, most of the central business design guidelines have been complied with. Of the 32, he mentioned 5 that there was not total compliance with. Of those, at least 2 have to do with site landscaping plans that will come to you later. In other words, it's not a matter of non-compliance, it's a matter of we haven't complied yet. The plan is to address those issues with the specific site plan and the final development plan that will be before this body for your consideration and for your approval. You've heard us repeatedly. I am going to ask that Rick Rolfing and Bill Boyden address the changes that have been made to our plans since we last met on May the 7th. In an effort to demonstrate to you, we are cognizant of your vision for downtown. We are making an earnest effort to comply with it and to be a part of it as much as possible. And with that, we're going to try to make our presentation short. And the reason for that is that we note all the people who have come here tonight. We want to give them an opportunity to speak. We ask only for a second opportunity to come after there's been public comment to address some of the issues that they raised in summation before your final vote. With that, I'd ask if you would indulge me as I ask Mr. Rolfing to come and to explain some of the changes that have occurred with respect to the site plan since we last met on May the 7th.
Can those in the audience see that, or do you want me to turn off the lights a little bit? Do you have the lights put in? Very good.
Oh, now
Good evening once again. My name is Rick Rolfing, engineer with Bishop Frankenberg Associates out of Washington, Missouri. And I too want to thank the mayor and all the commissioners for their continued time spent on this agenda item in our zoning request. Quickly, I do want to go over a couple changes, and they were to address some of the comments of this board. The site plan you see before you tonight, we're calling, as you'll see, 1I. And I'll explain, there's very subtle differences in that, and I'll go through those now. The first change is there was a comment from the board to have a connecting walk from the parking lot to the front, and we did add a crosswalk here as well as a sidewalk connecting down to the alleyway. So that was the first change we did add. In a second change to comply fully with the landscaping setbacks of sidewalks, we widened this landscape tree, if you will, on the side of that sidewalk. The other big change, and it wasn't necessarily to comply with the codes, but it was requested of us from staff to give an idea of what these streets may look like with the future improvements. So at the direction and guidance of staff, we have modified the streets, Blue Ridge Boulevard would have a center turn lane, one lane in the north direction, one lane in the south, and these bump outs, if you will, or bump ins maybe, would be for parallel parking. The same is true on Raytown, only on Raytown there is no center turn lane. It's just one lane in each direction. And again, you have the bump outs for the parallel parking. And those are shown at the request of staff so that maybe we can get a better image of how not only our site looks, but maybe the streets adjacent to our site. And the final last thing I want to go over on the plan that is different on this plan versus any you've seen before is we've got these section view lines. This one's AA, this one is BB. And I'll go to the next slide here in just a second, and I hope you all have that next slide in front of you. But in pointing it out, I want to point out here's East 62nd Street. This is the right-of-way line, and I'm going to get to why I'm pointing these out when we go to the next slide. This is the right-of-way line. We've got a buffer area here, a green space. This is the retaining wall that has been in discussion, and this is why we're providing the next slide. Is I think there's maybe been some confusion or maybe not fully understanding. Is that a cut wall or is it a fill wall? You know, will you see that wall from 62nd Street or not? So the next slide hopefully will shed more light on that. Again, the retaining wall, then there's a green area in front of the wall before our rear drive operating area. This is the 10-foot tall truck wall screen, and then there's the dock itself, and of course the building. On BB, we've got 63rd Street, our open space just off of the right-of-way, the existing alleyway, again, the north line of the alleyway, green area, retaining wall, and then we go into our parking lot. Okay, if we go back to AA, which was on the top of that sheet, we've got 62nd Street, which we pointed out. There's the right-of-way. We will have landscaping in between the right-of-way and what's going to be what we're calling right now, and we've discussed before a couple weeks ago with this commission, was a 6-foot tall vinyl screen fence. So the landscaping would help soften that fence, and this would be a, for all practical terms, called the site-proof fence, so you don't see what's going on behind the store and to screen those activities. There is at this location, and I chose this location because there was comment of how tall the wall would be and how visible it would be. there is the 6-foot wall. So when you're in Walmart's back drive, that's when you'll actually see the face of that wall. You won't see it from 62nd Street. You would see the screen wall that again will be softened by the landscaping. On the front side of the wall, we do have a small green space area. I'm not showing any kind of landscaping in there, but we did talk about that we could put some landscaping in there if it were felt needed to soften that wall from the back drive. Then we have the actual truck drive itself, the 10-foot tall screen wall at the dock, then the dock and the Walmart building. So that would be the profile, if you will, looking back at what was AA. And now going down to the bottom of the screen, BB, and again, that is through this cut section. Starting on 63rd Street, we've got the right-of-way. This is where the existing building is. This is our proposed open area that's out there. This would be the alleyway. We're labeling this as property line. It's actually the north line of the alleyway today, and it would eventually become not a property line. It would just be that alleyway right-of-way line. Got the alleyway, and then this would be the short retaining wall that would be just on the north side of the alleyway, and on top of it, and we're calling it 4 feet tall, which is about how tall it would be at that location. On top of it, we would have a 4-foot tall, there we're not calling a screen fence because we would want visibility through it. We're saying that would be more like a black ornamental fence that you could see through. And then we would also have landscaping between it and our parking lot. Mr. Bryant mentioned that of the 5.5 things that we don't comply with, 2 of them didn't have to do with landscaping. And I mentioned before, we know that we have to provide landscaping, and we will, irrigation, stormwater detention calculations, geotech, environmental, traffic, and those would all be forthcoming during the site plan approval process. And the approval of the rezoning tonight definitely would not be foregoing those requirements. And the last thing I wanted to mention is today's site plan does have over 20% green area of the 4.5 total acres. So that concludes what I was going to update you all on with the changes. If there's any questions.
I had brought up the alleyway and alleyway accesses for trucks. I had brought up access to the alleyways. The alleyway behind Sue Frank State Farm Agency, Slick Willie's, Walnick's, for truck access for the existing business. How are we able to resolve that?
Correct. We did look at trucks turning around, and where he is speaking of would be trucks entering in off of Blue Ridge, making deliveries to the shops up front, fronting 63rd, and how they would then maneuver back out. Correct. We did look at it. The beer trucks, the soda trucks, the chip trucks, those type of trucks, 40 feet long typically. I'm not sure exactly what those delivery truck sizes are here, but we looked at, that's a typical size. And those are able to maneuver into the site with one backup and pull forward. They are able to return out. If during the site plan approval process, it's staff's desire, it's this commission's desire to have an alternate option, Walmart is agreeable to remove 20 additional feet of our open space, and that would allow enough room to actually make a full half circle, or pull in and turn around and go back out. Also, I want to mention on the open space, there was a question, would we be open to some park benches or other landscaping in that area? And we are open to putting a few benches and trees in that area.
I would like to have an alternate plan on that, just to make sure, because I know, I go behind that alley from time to time, and cars will park up alongside
Right.
there, and.
And we can,
it's difficult
again,
for traffic to come around.
we can certainly get more into that detail and have that comment when,
Okay,
during site plan approval. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Mr. Kramer, it's a little confusing though when you look at the alley today, because there are cars parked up against the retaining wall, or actually comparison against the retaining wall. In actuality, that's the alley. Those elements are placed in the alleyway. So when you talk about parking in the buildings, and you put additional parking in the alleyway, and you put the trash containers in the alleyway, those elements are restricting the alleyway towards intended purpose. Ms. Nelson?
I have a question. I had asked earlier about the site to store question, where if you order something online, it can be delivered to, like a 350 Walmart store.
Correct.
But would this store be one of those that would continue at?
It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Representative Walmart here, but it's my understanding that the neighborhood markets will be becoming part of that program. Neighborhood markets are not part of the layaway program, though.
Before we ask more questions, hold on, please. Thank you. Before we get off of the site plan and we get the room lit back up, let's stay with questions regarding the site plan for the engineer, please. Any more? Great.
I have a question about the southeast lot. There's currently 2 existing structures there. And my question is, at an early May meeting at the Planning and Zoning, I do believe the attorney representing Walmart said that Walmart reserves the right to purchase additional properties north of 63rd Street. Is that still true?
Hold on a second, please, because let's stay with questions on this site plan, but we're going to get the lights back up. All right, Jason, just hang on a second.
Yeah, sure.
Please. Any questions regarding the site plan? Get the lights back up. There's one question on the site plan.
Yes, on the alleyway, the foundation wall, currently, is that going to be staying there?
No, we will be removing that. We don't know the integrity of it. It also will not, it's just a concrete wall. It won't match any of the architectural features of our building. We'll be building a new block wall that will complement the building. And the
There's no steps from the alleyway to the parking lot itself?
To address that, Mr. Mott, is what we were talking about was to add a connecting sidewalk on that portion. If we did add a stairway to it, we'd have to put a sidewalk probably over to the walkway. I'm not saying that wouldn't happen.
And that was a 4-foot retaining wall, correct?
It's approximately 4 feet tall, and of course it would taper off to, nothing on the ends.
And with the platform ornament is on top.
That is correct.
Thanks.
Stay with that for 1 second, sir, because I gotta tell you, I find it objectionable on the, in section 8A, the 6-foot tall vinyl string fence. That's, in 62nd Street and 4th Street, we talked about the importance of the library and pattern building with the neighborhood. I'd like to see something else, recognize that certainly like the ornamental fence look on the line, fence look, I know you want the screen there. So I'm going to look for something, Mr. Benson, that's a little more, architecturally correct, rather than a chain link fence, what I'm guessing are going to be vinyl strips on it.
No, it would not be a chain link fence. It would be like a paneled, it probably won't be white because that would really stand out.
Sectional type.
Tan.
Sectional.
Something like that. It probably wouldn't be wooden, but it would be of a,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you. Other questions on the site plan, please, Ms. Nelson?
I'll try this again. The built in Blue Springs, is that what it would look like on our site? As far as the colors, the lighting that's used, the signage?
Stainless side plan, please.
Ms. Milson, I cannot honestly answer that story. I'm not involved in that project, so I do not know the aesthetics of that building.
Question on the side plan. Okay, Mr. Green on side plan, bring up the lights back up.
My question is regarding the site plan, the retaining wall at the north end of the proposed area here. I do understand those concerns about a very sentimental old tree in the north corner there. In fact, 1776, I believe, was the date of its conception, if you will. My concern, though, is if this was to be approved, I'm concerned with the well-being of that tree. Takers can only so much for people in this community. And I don't know if you guys are in a position to guarantee that would be spared, if you will, from any type of construction that may take place during that retaining wall or other type of infrastructure.
I am in a position to say that we are going to put protection around that tree, and we have purposely positioned, that tree at that corner. That's Mr. Green is referring to. This retaining wall even can come closer to through the drive. It will not be a 6-foot retaining wall on this end. It'll probably be more like 2 feet, I'm guessing, something coming down. And we may even be able to taper that off a little bit sooner. We will protect that tree during construction, and I can guarantee that. I can't guarantee the survival of a tree. I mean, I don't know if a bug is going to hit it or what have you, but I can guarantee that during construction it will be protected.
Mr. Green, if I could step on that for a second. What I would like to see on that, and the opening, please, and the engineer, please, I think that it would not be out of question. That was my first issue when we saw the very first, your first preliminary plan, you were thinking about this. That tree was a concern as well. And I think it would not be out of question to install certain skill sources of an arborist to review it, to look at it, to study it, and to watch it, to observe it, and maintain it during construction. Do everything possible can to maintain that tree. So I'd like the arborist be involved during the design and construction phase. Do what we can to preserve that.
If I can just to follow up on that. The one thing that we can work with the applicants on as part of the final site plan submittal is there's best management practices for design, for preserving trees, for protecting trees, and we can work with the applicant on that and look at those, incorporating those measures into the construction plans and further this along with what you're talking about.
That would be a stipulation I would request before I would approve these buildings.
I don't think we would have an issue with that either, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Green, sorry for interrupting. Okay, anything else related to the site plan before we run the lights on? Okay. Worker, thank you. Okay. Anything else you want to add as far as the engineering side of this?
No, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the city clerk is in possession of revised elevations for each member of the Board of Aldermen to see, so that you can see exactly what the proposed store would look like. We don't plan on making any additional presentation by our architect at this moment. We do, however, reserve the right to come back in summation after members of the public have had an opportunity to speak.
Point of information. Just quickly.
Sorry. There'll be time to speak, sir. I can't
I had a question regarding a comment I heard at the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting in early May regarding Walmart reserving the right to purchase additional properties north of 63rd Street on that strip right there. And I wanted to know if they still reserve that right.
Yes. In fact, under the conditional...
The audience for quiet.
Yes. In fact, it is a matter of contract. Under the conditional purchase agreement that the city has agreed to, we are encouraged to acquire those properties in order to enhance the visibility to the store. Now, whether or not we do it or not is a matter of bargaining between Walmart and the property owner. It's also a matter of whether or not Walmart desires to take that property in the future, but it is a right that the company would reserve going forward.
Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you.
Mr. Fraser.
I have a question for you.
Hold on a second, but yeah, please, we're trying to get to the bottom of the law details here. Please be patient with us.
Right.
Hold on a second. Let's just wait until the gentleman wants to be quiet and continue here.
And then many of the questions that have been asked of me or statements that have been made to me personally by citizens, and I'm trying to get the answers to because I don't know them. Do you have, or can you give us a long-range vision of what Walmart actually sees our downtown looking like? Does that include all the buildings north of 63rd Street between Blue Ridge and Raytown Road gone?
Repeat the question one more time
Okay,
for me.
a long-range vision
Mm-hmm.
downtown. I'm asking, do you have any idea what that vision might be? Is it a vision that would include all the buildings north of 63rd Street, or on 63rd Street on the north side of the street, between Raytown Road and Blue Ridge, gone?
Not necessarily. And I think I'm going to ask Jeff Clayton to assist me with this question because he's in charge of property acquisition. But right now, the plan that is before you is for a single tenant to inhabit 3.78 acres. And what occurs along 63rd Street has been a matter of discussion between ourselves and your staff, and we've kept it malleable in an effort to try to address your concerns. And so what you've seen is a number of different plans for what occurs along 63rd Street, depending in large part upon what the collective desire of this body is.
I guess my last question would be, have you already acquired and currently own any of those properties?
Please.
The two properties that are shown as open space are under contract. They have not been acquired. They are under contract. And to answer your previous question, I think I've indicated on previous meetings that I have spoken to every one of the property owners along 63rd Street. Any property owner that would wish to sell, and we could come to a mutual agreement on an acquisition, we would acquire. There are several of those parties along 63rd who have indicated to me that as of the last time I spoke with them, they had no interest in selling. Consequently, consequently, those parties who've indicated they will not sell, we obviously can't and won't pursue those properties. But any other properties where a property owner would come to us and say they would like to sell, we would like to talk to him.
And my last question would be, so if for some reason this project did not go through, you wouldn't walk away owning property, because I was already told that you currently own property.
That is not true.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Mr. Clayton, as a developer, and you've done a number of projects around that ball area, other than Walmart's block,
Yes, sir.
so it's not out of the ordinary for a developer who's interested in a parcel, whether it's a Walmart or it's a Charlotte Nelson boutique of some sort, for that developer to be interested in neighboring properties for their own development purposes, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
This isn't any different than any other development parcel. You're always interested in looking at expanding your development for the purpose of enhancing the business.
Absolutely.
Any questions, Mr. Clayton? Mr. Mudd?
I just wish to see those properties developed. That's it.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, I'm with you on that. I like the email. The vision I have of 63rd Street is that those remain businesses. We've got commercial businesses. But those properties aren't in the application that we're saying about. Unfortunately, those aren't part of the application. So if the board wants to secure those properties, we need to move pretty fast in order to secure them. But it still is up to each individual property owner to agree to sell or buy. As Mr. Clayton said, there are those who said no. And there are those who I guess no there pretty quickly. So, what control does the board have of any of the property owners selling their property that's outside of this building? Yes, that's in consideration. Mr. Whitehead? No? Okay. Other questions? Mr. Bryant, do you have anybody else you want to bring forward?
No, we will yield to the members of the top.
Okay, now this time I'm going to open the floor. We're going to go as we did last time. We've got like 4 or 5 pages